What's up, guys? It's the 30th. It is Friday, and it's a 3-day weekend because it's Labor Day, and I get paid too, which is cool. Um, okay, so damn, it's that late. Wow, 3:18. I took a nap earlier, actually. I was gonna do the morning stream after I got off work, but like I couldn't fall asleep last night. I think I took my caffeine, some of my caffeine pill a little late, like almost 4, and like I don't know. I guess I overdid it a little bit or something, but for whatever reason I just had trouble falling asleep. Ended up waking up like 30 minutes before I was supposed to. Couldn't fall back asleep. I'm sure you've experienced that before. So I just like got up 20 minutes early and took a shower and stuff. So anyway, I was like exhausted when I got home, so I decided I was gonna take a nap, and I slept. I don't know. I slept alright. I feel like I couldn't sleep then either very good. Like my quality of sleep was just not great. Um, but that's how it is sometimes. Yeah, I guess I just wasn't that tired, right? If I was if I was that tired, I would have slept, right? I don't know. Anyway, so let's get this set up. Um, Make sure it's working. Yeah, it's working as usual. My USB thing that was causing me blue screens, computer problems is my thing. Was actually because of this lamp that I got. You can't see it, but it's right here, and it's like this little swivel lamp thing I got off of Temu. I had the USB plugged into my computer, and like I guess it doesn't agree with the USB interface, or like my motherboard maybe it like draws too much power. It's Chinese shit. It probably, you know, for whatever reason, I since I've unplugged that, I'm not having those blue screens of death anymore. So that's good. Now let's go ahead and jump in instead of just talking about bullshit, and let me try to get some coding done because it is late. So, okay, we're basically at this point just doing, we're going to control shift 5 to multiply this terminal. We're going to cd to Canasta main here. We're going to copy it, alt down to go to the next terminal, paste, alt down, control V to paste, alt up to go back to the server main terminal, and we're going to just basically at this point, this is kind of where I just go with the feeling. Like we're doing debugging, game testing, and basically if I feel like I want to tackle this issue, I'm going to tackle this issue. If I want to tackle this thing, I'm going to tackle this thing, and it just kind of is like, it's like music, it speaks to you, whatever you feel like you need to work on. Sometimes that's just the best way to do it. Sometimes. Anyway, so let's run the server script. Now we're going to go to client 1, run that one. Okay, now we're going to go and run, oops, be careful. Then we're going to run the second one. Okay, so what we got going on here, okay, I'm looking at our outputs in the terminal. I'm going over here. Okay, so here's the waiting for other player to join server. This has turned into a pretty common occurrence. This is not very intermittent anymore. This is about half of the time. So I want to tackle this issue, and so I'm going to read this output here. We have names equal to main, so listen, start accepted clients, connect to client 1, client 2. Now we get to the draw 1. Okay, so that means we've entered into the draw 1, which is in this progression file down here. We're gonna go down to it, and what ends up happening is the first thing that happens in the draw 1 function is it changes the game state to the draw 1 for each player. Now, since this happens on the server side main thread, that means that in the server file, when I look up send, Oh damn, I have that many all caps sends. How about send space? Okay, there we go. That cut out 100 of them. So I'm looking for this specific. I skipped one. Okay, here we go. So whenever we send the changed attribute list, which whenever that game state adder is changed in the draw one on the main thread, the two client threads are going to detect that change. It's going to be added to the change attribute lists for each client, and then that should trigger this traceback print log function output log right here. That should show up in our terminal. As you can see, it doesn't show up in the terminal. See how this one shows up, send change attribute list? That should show up in this terminal, and it's not. So let's go through the chain of events here. Well, actually, let me hit Control C to kill the script, because sometimes you'll get more output after. Even though I have custom logger set to actively print out the logs instead of printing them all out at the end of the scripts, I think sometimes you still will get more when you kill the script. So let me kill the server script with Control C. Okay, and you see we did get a few more. Well, no, actually we didn't. The only one we got was the one that occurred after I hit Control C, which was basically the exception when I hard killed the script. So same thing with client script. That's when it crashed because I killed the server, and then the two clients crashed because the server crashed. So what you got going on here is, it looks like there is no sending going on. It's not sending that change attribute list like it should. So if we open up server, which I want to stay open, I'm going to put devlog over here, and I'm going to put things to do over here. And so this is this section we're working with right here. And let me make sure this is indeed the correct section. Start send section, okay. If length of change attribute list is greater than 0, then we run dir check to filter it. Then if the length of it is still greater than 0, we go ahead and we create our data to be sent. Okay, yeah, so this is indeed the correct, this is correct. This is the correct section. So this should be printing out after we get to the draw one. So open up progression. First thing that happens is we get the draw one change. When that happens, this triggers the game state setter for the attribute, and in that one it's going to trigger this else clause as true. It's going to call data transfer function. It's going to pass in the ID, the self as the game object, and then the caltoop. And when that calls data transfer function, that's inside of change attribute list. So we have our chain of events here. First we have server, which calls the draw one function. That happens in progression. Progression changes the game state for each game. The two client threads on the server side should detect these changes, and well, sorry, let me slow down. We trigger the game state changes here, which in turn calls the setter for the game state attribute, which in turn calls the data transfer function, which is located here in this file. So now we go down to the data transfer function, and we disabled the printout, which verifies that that function was called. So we're going to re-enable that just so we know for sure that it was called. Anyway, and then in this case, it would be server side, so it would import all these globals, set the current time, add a name string. If cal object n is equal to 1, assign the cal object to C1 change attribute list. If SS or CS is equal to SS, so that's the section it would enter into. If cal object n is equal to 1, lock EC1 cal lock. If adder name val not in transferred game adders. If adder name string not in transferred game adders. Okay. It increments the proper apply counter, but in this case it would be, so it would only increment one of the counters, and then it would go down here and it would create the cal tup. Alright, and then it would call cal lock list function, passing in the cal object, a for append, the cal tup, and then the proper lock, and that would go up here, and it would, with the lock, append the cal tup to the change attribute list. And now that change attribute list, the cal object, okay, now I'm wondering if the, so calloc list function gets called, calloc list function, we go there and it appends to that list. Okay, now next it's gonna go if game object is not equal to none, if skeleton is an adder name, which it's not gonna be for that, it would set the adder of the time stamp. Okay, gotcha. That's fine. Oh, that's good. Okay, now that should populate the change attribute list. So what I want to do here is let me just think. Okay, so let's just say that this works like I'm thinking it should. It populates that change attribute list. Now in server, on the client thread, all that happened on the main thread, by the way. That happens on the main thread. And now on the client thread, it should pick up during the main while loop. It's going to check to see if the length of the C1 change attribute list is greater than 0. And then if it is, it does all of this stuff. Oh, you know what I'm seeing right here? I think I see a bug. Okay, I think I see a bug where So technically it could run this line. Let's say the change attribute list is populated, okay? So the change attribute list is populated at this point, but it's only populated with that one value. Well, actually, that doesn't matter. So let's say the change attribute list is populated. And then let's say it goes here, and then it checks to see if the length of the change attribute list is greater than 0. Now, if it's not populated at this point, which very well could be the case, let's just say it hasn't been populated at this point because it's a separate thread from the main thread. If it doesn't enter into this section, it's not going to run all of this code. And we need all this code because for us to access all these variables, you know, we have to have these assigned, and if they're not assigned, then obviously how are you going to use them? And since we use conlog down here, though, that would throw an error. And here's my concern. My concern is this indentation, which of this line, which checks the length of the current client change attribute list, is at the same level as this one. So if it's empty, the change attribute list is empty when it checks this line, then all this is not going to get assigned, which has to happen for like the rest of it to work. But then it's going to go down here and it's going to check it again. And if it's populated at this point, it's going to try to run this line right here, but it's not going to know what change attribute list copy is. That doesn't exist. It hasn't been assigned. So we have to I think what I need to do first is check the length of that changed attribute list. What do you think if I did that first? If I changed the structure of this so that this length of C1 change attribute list was checked first, okay, and then and then we could just remove this line and leave this at the same indentation level, all the rest. So basically this would just get moved to the top. We would leave all this exactly where it is, and then this would get indented to the same level as this for loop, so on and so forth. It's funny, you probably can't even see where I'm working because I have my thing blocked. Can't even see. I gotta make me a little smaller so you can actually see what's going on. Yeah, I think the top right corner is best because top right corner is usually where. What's the best corner, honestly? Probably the bottom right. Like bottom right corner is best actually. Because yeah, that lets you see what I'm doing. You couldn't even see what I was doing. I remember like I moved it. I had it bottom left. Bottom left's bad because that's my main terminal, and then bottom top left is not good because that's like where most of the code is. Top right is okay, but bottom right, I really don't like operating the bottom right section down here. So this is probably the best setup, having it down here. That's probably a little better. I can probably make me just a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. So anyway, let's do that. I think we're gonna do that. But you have to be real careful here because you can break the whole thing if you don't do this right. So let's be careful and let's try to fix this. It's like doing surgery. You have to be very careful. You're basically you're a digital surgeon. Programmers, you're a digital surgeon. So now we're going to put this up here. Okay. Why is okay, so we put this at the top now. Then we have if current client ID is equal to 1. If current client ID is equal to 2. Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, it's not that simple. Okay. Okay, that's good. Now we have to actually check this first. We would say if current client ID is equal to 1, we have to assign the correct cal lock. Okay. And then we would assign, okay, so we would assign all the locks. And then we would assign all this. But this would only happen if the length of the current client change attribute list is greater than 0. Okay, I'm gonna try something and I might not like it and I keep hitting the wrong button. Shift tab to unindent. Okay. And then we would do this would all get indented. Thinking about performance right here, and if it's some of this is wasted code, like it would be a lot better if we were to check if the length of it first. But even if we check the length of it first, like we had originally before I changed anything, see, we're actually, I think honestly, instead of restructuring it from how it is currently, I think I would rather, because I was just trying to do that, and that would require us to basically have a little bit of potentially dead code where we would be assigning all this stuff, um, but we wouldn't actually, we might not need to assign this stuff because I mean we could just check the um, we could just check to see if it was populated twice. That would solve the issue. So here's the two options. The two options are we could basically leave it how it is, like this, and so if current client ID is equal to 1, current client ID is equal to 2. So if the length of the current client change attribute is greater than 0, and right here I didn't use the lock, which I should have. That was a mistake right here. This needs to have a lock. Anyway, if I were to make a change right here, it would undo the changes that I did in the that I've already made, which I'm like undoing and then redoing to look at the how it was initially and then how it was after we changed it. And if I were to make a change when I did all the undos again, then it would erase my redo like tree, whatever you want to call that. And I don't want to erase that, so I can't add in the lock right here that's actually necessary if I were to leave it like this. But my option here is I can leave it as it is, and I just would create a boolean which said which was like right up here, which says like ran preliminary section equals false. And then if this section gets run all the way through, meaning if only if it's considered that the change attribute list is populated at this point, only then would that boolean get changed to true. And then when we go down here before this line, we just leave the indentation the same. We don't have to modify any indentation. We would just add a line right above it which says if ran preliminary section equals true, then run this section only in that case. Because that is indeed what we need to happen. We need to have this section only run if this section above has run. And since they're checking the same condition, that could cause bugs. And then here's the second option. So the second option would be if we checked we would basically check the population of the change attribute list. Well, first we would check the client, then assign only the cal lock. for the change attribute list lock, which we have to have before we check the length to make sure it's thread safe to lock it first. And then after we check current client ID, we assign the cal lock, and then immediately after on the same indentation, we use that cal lock to check the length of the change attribute list. And then we would so I'm actually gonna go ahead and let's structure it like that real quick and see what it looks like. So we're gonna have cal lock elif IDs. So let's move that up here. And we have cal lock equals C. I know this is really messy. And then we would check the length. Okay. And then we would have to check the current client IDs again, which is, you know, is it a big deal? Not really. I don't like repeating myself, but I also don't really like the idea of just creating a Boolean that's sole purpose is to see if a certain section of code had been run immediately above. So honestly, I would say both of these options are quote-unquote bad code, but considering that I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to pick the right choice. I want to make the right choice. I think I kind of lean towards the Boolean option. Something about checking that ID again immediately after checking it at first. Or I could have a little bit of dead code, and I really hate dead code. Like I just don't like it. I don't like running code that might not need to be run because that's wasted performance, and I'm like a performance freak. Is it a big deal? No, it's probably not, but it's just kind of like a programming mentality that I think is good to have if you want to create quality software. You don't want any like fat on it, you know. It's just like you want it to be lean and precise and only do what it has to do and nothing else, because that also makes it easier to debug because it's less to look at. But you could say the idea that I use check current client ID immediately after is just as bad in its own way, because it's kind of confusing. It's like, oh, you just checked that, why are you checking that again? But I think the idea of the dead code thing is actually worse. So let's go ahead and make my decision here. What am I going to do? Am I going to leave it like this and use current client ID check twice? If length the change attribute list greater than 0, count lock equals self count lock count one lock. Okay. 2 lock. I'm gonna do the Boolean option. Yeah, I'm doing the Boolean option. Ah, and you know what? Even better. I don't even have to, yeah, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. Okay, so all right, all right. I got this is good. So now we can say um cal or well, no, it's not necessarily that, but we'll just call it prelim section ran and we'll set it to false. Now, then if length of the change attribute list is greater than 0, because we would also have to add in the release of those locks and stuff. And I don't want to really have to restructure that code. It works as it is. I'm pretty sure the only flaw, at least that I can think of right now, is that other section checks the same condition. We don't want to check the same condition. So we're going to change the condition to where it's now going to check this boolean instead of the length of the change attribute list. So here it's going to check the length of the change attribute list. And since it indeed has been detected as populated at this point, we would change prelim section ren equal to true, and then do the same thing down here since these are mirror sections of each other. And then we'll go down here and we'll say, instead of checking the length of the change attribute list, we will just check to see if preliminary section ran is equal to true. And that means if cal was populated and above section was ran. Begins filtering on it. And we'll say bool is necessary because above vars have to be assigned before continuing. Okay, so now there we go. We're on point here. So this is gonna be, we'll say, and does this mean we need to change the mirror section in client? Changes to these need to made in mirror client by section as well. Okay, so now we're gonna do our, I still can't remember the word for what that's called. Stencil, it's like a stencil, it's not a stencil, it's like a, anyway, it's not important. Comment created 8:30:24, so type is bool, and then purpose is to signify if the immediately below section has been run. Has to be checked against and found to be equal to true before running subsequent section which relies on var assignments from immediately below section. Yay! Yay! There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's review. So I'll put changed to true if len Alright, so we have prelim section ran equals false, and then we this is not the right below line. Assigns current client change to list copy and associated change attribute list equal to the same. Okay, so this line is not this comment is not talking about the below line. What did I move that today, or was this like messed up before I messed with it today? Assigns current client change attribute list equal to C1 C2 change attribute list copy. Okay, so I think what I meant to put there was below section. We are taking a snapshot of the C1 C2, then we will send this current client object and subsequently iterate through the associated change attribute list, which guarantees removal of only the sent data. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that line, but I'm gonna redo my changes. Okay. Now I'm gonna get rid of that line. Okay, so prelim section ren is set to false. We check current client ID. If current client ID is equal to 1, C1 calloc acquire. If length of change attribute list is greater than 0, prelim section ren is equal to true. Then we release that lock. We'll actually release the lock first because we want to release that as soon as possible, since other areas will be competing for the same lock. Then we change prelim section ren equal to true. Then calloc equals C1 calloc, used later on when removing elements from original change attribute list. Conlock equals self.con1 lock, used later when calling con send all. And then other conlock equals self.con2 lock, used later when calling on other con send all. Can't use cal lockless function here because it only works for a list. So then we say with calloc associated change attribute list equals C1 change attribute list, and then current client dot change attribute list equals C1 change attribute list dot copy, and then change attribute list copy equals current client dot change attribute list dot copy. So we have the associated change attribute list, which is the actual, the current client change attribute list, which is the copy of the actual. Then we have the change attribute list copy. What's it called? The change. Current client Here's a copy of the copy since you remove elements from the first copy. Right, yeah, that part's confusing as hell. Iterate through the copy association. But we do that because we... So it's a double copy. It's really a double copy. It's a double copy. Yeah. Alright, then we have, so all this is good, and then else C1 calloc release. Okay. Yeah, so this is all good. Now, and then we check if preliminary section is ran. Is equal to true. Which means we've assigned all these variables. And the change attribute list was populated. Okay. It then checks the change attribute list copy and does its thing. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to review the entire thing. So now that bug should be fixed. That was a win. We just fixed a bug. Okay, yeah, and obviously it's not going to run with this format code here. So let's check client to see if we have the same issue. So let's go to the same section, and oh yeah, we're not going to have this section. Well, maybe we do. Hold on, let's do this. We'll check if the length, we'll copy that and we'll go over here and look for that. Okay, cool, there's only 14 of those. So is this, if the length of the C1 change attribute list is greater than 0, this is for the send section? Yeah, this is the send section. So we have to look in the send section. Okay. So if the length of C1 change attribute list is greater than 0, C1 change attribute is greater than 0, C1 change attribute list copy. Wait, I just see something. Why is this different? Ah, see, we do have the same problem here. But why is this one different? If current client ID 1 or current client ID is equal to 2, if the length of C1 change attribute list is greater than 0. Okay. Only have to check C1 since ID is 1. Would never modify C2 in this case. C1 change attribute list copy. Current client dot change attribute list equals C1 change attribute list copy for 2 and C1 change. Okay. because we have to send both. If we're current client 1, we're only going to do C1, but if we're client 2, we're going to do C1 and C2. Complicated. If length C1, okay, C1 current client. For 2 and C1, change attribute list copy. Okay. Change attribute list source dict. Change attribute list source dict. 4 more minutes till my break. Okay, so now if current client ID is equal to 2, then we check the length of the C2 change attribute list. Okay. Then we say if length of current client change attribute list. And it says if the above. Okay, so current client change attribute list is greater than 0. So if it ran this above section and assigned the current client.change attribute list. I see. Then it says for 2 C2 change attribute list copy. Okay, I got it. It holds both 1 and 2. I remember now. Okay. And then we check if the length of the current client change attribute list is greater than 0. Now, but this is the same scenario as the server, isn't it? Because we have yeah, totally. So we have the same issue, because we could check this line right here, and if it is greater than 0, it would enter into this section, and then it will start filtering them out. But don't we want this section to only run if it has run this section? I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm pretty sure we only want it to run this next section if we've run this section first. Okay. But would it be populated by any other means? if we ran draw window main, if we ran draw window main and it changed anything, well, it wouldn't use, let's see, I'm trying to work through this. Let's see. So whenever, if we were to change the data on this, on the client side, we run this function, data transfer function, cal object, int game object. So data transfer function, let me look up the instances of that, and let's see. So the cal object, we just passed the cal object int. Okay, that's true. We don't actually pass the cal object anymore. So the cal object is either going to be the C1 or the C2. Okay. What happened to the client file that I had open? Okay. So this current client change attribute list gets assigned. Let's see, where all is it used in this file? Let's look. Okay. Okay, so it's assigned right here. Okay. It's checked. It's appended to. It's assigned. Okay. Then we check the length of it here. Then we iterate through a copy of it. If current client do not send editable. So if we remove if we remove the tuples through dir check, we remove them from the current client change attribute list. Okay. Okay. Then we check the length of it again. Okay. Then we send the data. Okay. Then we iterate through a copy of it. And we remove each element from it. So actually, it's a similar thing, but I'm pretty sure we don't have the same problem. Because basically, this will never be populated at this point if this section hasn't run, because it's referencing the current client dot change attribute list. Now if it was referencing the actual change attribute list, that would be different. But since it's referencing the attribute list, the current client's attribute, then, and since the current client's attribute is essentially cleared, well, okay, yeah, no, because again, it's not a reflection of the actual change attribute list. Because I was thinking, well, what if data gets added in between? But that would get added into the actual cal, not the, what this is essentially a copy of it. So this is safe. I'm going to just put a note here so I know this in the future. So we'll put below line 8, 30, 24, and we'll say reviewed associated logic concerning the indentation level of this and whether or not this might be found to be true in an errant fashion. I don't believe it ever would, because this is a copy of the actual cow. Change attribute list, which is completely depopulated after send, after dir check, filter, and again after dot send all. Meaning whenever this line is found to be true, this clause rather, it will always be safe. I don't know how to word this. The clause found to be true, it will always be safe and proper. I don't really know another way to like describe it. It's not so important. It's just to let me know it's safe how as it is. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so moving on to the next section. So we can close client because client is safe. We can get rid of this. Alright. Now let's go ahead and run this again. Alright, and actually it should be past my hour, so I'm going to take a little break. Just a small break. I'll be back in a few minutes. So I'm going to take a little break here. Okay. Come back. Let's try to finish this one more hour. Alright. So, one more hour. And I think that if I just, like, take my time, go really slow as far as, like, making sure any changes that I make are 100% like perfect and valid, necessary, and like don't cause bugs or fix a bug, I will be done with this very soon. I just have to make sure that I'm not have to make sure that I'm not making any mistakes. And once all this, like the data transfer system is debugged, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know there's going to be some other bugs with like the core progression file of the game, because I haven't been able to like play through that yet because of all the other bugs with the data transfer. It's like an engine. It's like an engine. It's like getting an engine running. And you know, like, until you can get that engine to work and rotate, you don't know what else is wrong with the car. So if I can get the engine running, then I can figure out what's wrong with the car. And I'm pretty sure the car is in mostly good shape. Like, getting the engine running is the hard part. Once I get the engine running, the rest of it is really going to be pretty quick, I think. So, it will feel demoralizing when you're stuck at the beginning of the game for so long. You know, and it feels like, oh, well, if it's taking this long to get through, like, the very first little section, that means it's going to take that long to get through all the, like, later sections as well, right? But no, that's not actually the case, because it's a really small loop, really. It just, that loop runs over and over again, and it has to be perfect. It's just like a car engine. That's how I describe it. It's like a car engine. So let's go ahead and run the server script. See what we got going on here. See if we can find our next bug. Okay, so we get our name. Okay, now it looks like it's looping here. See that? Yeah, so something is looping when it shouldn't be looping. And we also get a little bit of a visual bug. There's another visual bug. That's 2 visual bugs. And now it's not allowing us to pick, see, so it's actually progressing through the game, but something's wrong here. Yeah, it's all bad here. This is not good. Yeah, this is there's some bugs, dude. So it's not showing player 1's hand for player 2. Now this is the furthest it's ever gotten through the game, though. But I think at a fundamental level, there's, well, maybe not. Let's just take this one step at a time. So it's letting us make a play, and look, everything's working. Let's see if we can actually make a play. Okay, wow. Okay, now it died. It actually crashed. Okay. list index out of range. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that little bug. But I'm quite certain there is a bug in this draw one function. Something is wrong. Like it's running a while loop. This while loop, I think right here. I want to say this is bugged because yeah, okay, it's totally looping through this. I'm gonna put a below section. Quite certain there this logic is bugged. It seems to um, it seems that the function being called over and over is causing bugs. Something needs to be changed. So the function isn't called over and over. Yeah. Almost certainly. Now, before I mess with that though, let's look at this, which says if card in string type of self of item dot lower, and it's throwing an index error saying list index is out of range. Okay, so let's go to custom append list where this was thrown from. Say 272. Okay, so this is in pop. Subtype card group name. 3 onward is equal to hand and card and string type self item lower. Okay. Alright. Name equals self group name 0 to 3. 272. If subcard name not in self that ref list tubes if card and string type of self of item. So if we're popping from a meld, then the self would be the meld. And item is really the index. Well, it's gotta be a list, obviously, if we're popping from it. But, okay, let me think about this. So we have the self, which would be the list. Okay. Now, the item could either be a card or a meld, which is another list. And we're checking to see if card is in string of type of self, and I'm pretty sure we can change the formatting of this to just say if card in type of item of self of item. We don't have to do all this dot lower stuff and turn it into a string and all that, but we can change that later. That's on my to-do list. But it's saying that in this case, and let's look at the trace back. Let's go all the way back up. So we do stock draw, play 2, play check and sort, okay, and then it's temp meld append, current player dot pre-sort play cards pop. So we're popping pre-sort play cards. Pre-sort play cards pop, pre-sort play cards index. And then, so pre-sort play cards is a list that contains only cards. We know that. So when it runs, if card is in string type of item, this line right here, it should be found to be true. So it's saying if card is in the type of the self, and the self is the pre-sort play cards, and item is going to be the index. Okay, I see. So this isn't anything to do with the syntax of this line. It's because we're looking for the index that apparently does not exist. So the actual bug, I'm pretty sure, is associated with self at item. So the self is the pre-sort play cards, the item is the index. It's trying to grab a certain index from pre-sort play cards, but it's throwing an error saying that it's out of range, which means the logic which dictates which index is being grabbed here is bad. So let's go to the next level up, which is going to be in progression at line 862. Let's go to 862. Okay. And let's look what we got going on here. So index error was thrown here, apparently trying to grab errant index, bad index logic somewhere, or something related. So yeah, because you can never assume what exactly it is. It could be something else that's way further up the line than this. Okay, so let's see what this clause specifically says. If current card, let's look up here. If card found in meld is equal to false, okay. So this is iterating through all the cards in pre-sort play cards. Card found in meld equals false. If length between melds is greater than 0, that wouldn't be found to be true. If card found in meld is equal to false, that would be found to be true in this case. So 862. Yeah, because it's not going to be in any meld. We didn't have any melds. Then it says, okay, if current card rank current card in mass black 3-2. I don't know if that was the case. I don't remember what card it was. But all that does is append it to the back 3 meld anyway, and all it does is there is append it to a different list. That wouldn't cause an issue. Let's look at the elif. Elif current card rank, current card suit, and wildcard suit. All it does is append to the play cards, wild cards. That wouldn't be our culprit either. Elif rank not in play cards, new ranks ref. Elif rank not in play cards, new ranks ref. Okay. Appends to new rank ref. Creates temp meld. Okay. And then this is where the error is thrown. Current player.play cards append to meld. Okay, actually, sorry, it's the next line. It's actually this one. Temp meld append current player pre-sort play cards pop pre-sort play cards index. So let's see, where do we assign this pre-sort play card index? Let's go up above. Let's see, pre-sort play card index equals 0. So we assign it right here. So it starts at 0. Huh. Okay. Ah. Ah. Okay. Okay, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on here. I remember I reworked this section, and apparently I fucked it up when I reworked it. I see what I did. So, this pre-sort play cards index. Yeah, I know what I did. I know what I did. I tried to make it easier to read, and I fucked it up. Yep. Gotta be careful, man. So the issue here is this pre-sort play card index gets iterated, gets incremented every iteration of this for loop, and then we use the variable to grab a particular index. But since during iteration of this list, copied list, we are modifying the original so that when we're using the index of the card from the copy, that is not necessarily going to be the correct corresponding index of the actual list, the object in the list rather, because we're modifying the original. We modify it right here with pre-sort play cards pop, and then we modify it again here with pre-sort play cards pop, and again here pre-sort play cards pop. So this is bad logic. I totally whiffed it there when I added that in. Kind of embarrassing, actually. That's a bad That's a bad. That's bad, dude. That's really bad. That's sad. It's bad and sad. It's both of them. That's not good. Shame on me. I can't blame anybody else. I'm the only one who worked on the project, so. I swear to God, dude, like, my nose has been itching me on the inside. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's like allergies or something, but my nose has just been itchy lately. Anyway. Pre-store play cards, index. Has to go. And what we have to do is basically revert it to how it was before I modified it, which is going to grab the index of the card via pre-sort play cards dot index. So we can't use yeah, we can't use this. We have to instead change this to be pre-sort play cards pop pre-sort play cards dot index current card. So let's slowly review this. For current card and current player, pre-sort play cards copy. So we're making the copy, we're iterating through the copy. Card found in meld equals false if length of the meld is greater than 0 for meld and melds, if rank is equal to meld rank. Append to the meld, current player, pre-sort play cards pop. And what do we want to pop from it? We want to pop the pre-sort play cards index of the current card, because that index is dynamic. It's going to change if we pop a card from it. It's not going to have the same index anymore. It's going to be a different index, as long as we're modifying the list, which we are. So yeah, this should fix that, but we need to instead say current player dot. Forgot the current player dot. So it has to be current player dot pre-sort play cards dot pop. Pop what? Current player dot pre-sort play cards dot index of current card. And that was why I changed it, just because it was a long line and it was hard to read. And I was like, yeah, I can just make this easier to read. And that was a big mistake, and I want to know if I made that mistake anywhere else, honestly. So now I need to add this to my things to do. See, this is why, man, you got to be careful when you make changes to code. If it's not broken, don't fix it, dude. Damn, just wanted to make it look a little prettier, and look what I did. So let's say index progression bug, we'll say 83024. Certain places in prog.py were changed to reference X card group index instead of using the longer X card group dot pop X card group dot index card, which caused bugs in one place. I need to verify that other places, which I'm almost 100% certain I have added this in other places, which use this, are not also bugged. Particular in the bugged case, the index var assignment was errant since during iteration of for loop we modify the list, meaning the index is dynamic but assumed to be static. True. Alright, so let's go back over here and let's finish fixing this. Okay, so we remove that line, we fixed that one. Now we have to, let me just leave that for a minute so I can highlight where the others are. Now we have it in our search, so we can just search for it. Okay, so the next place is right here, and this is indeed in the same section. So now we're gonna have to use this syntax instead. So we're going to do current player.presort playcards.pop, and this is instead gonna say current player.presort playcards.index of current card. So instead of popping the index, we're actually gonna have to get the current player presort play cards index. And you know what? If we don't want the line to be so long, we could assign this variable immediately above it, but I'm really not even worried about it. You know what? I think I actually will. So here's what we'll do. We're gonna add this in. We're gonna say let's do this. Presort play cards index equals current player.presort play cards index of current card. And then we can just say pop presort play cards index. Now that's better. And we'll do the same thing up here. Right here we'll say if current card rank, then we say presort play cards index. It's current player presort play cards index of current card, and then we'll just do presort play cards pop, and we're gonna pop that. Okay. Now that's better. Now we got the best of both worlds. We have accurate logic and also better visual on the syntax is better visually. So now we're gonna copy this again, and current rank in current player play cards new ranks ref for melding current player play cards. If current rank is equal to meld rank, meld append current player presort play cards index equals current player presort play cards index current card. Okay, and then meld append current player presort play cards pop presort play cards index. And now we don't have to increment that value because we don't have it anymore. So this is line 840, 41, 63, 64, 71, and 72. So let me make sure this is the same section. What was the first one? 40 to 72. So 840 to 872. Okay, so that is the same section. Cool. So now we can actually, I will change this to just say card index. We don't have to have all that wordiness to it. So instead of being presort play cards index, it's just gonna say card index. let's say card index, pop card index, card index, pop card index, card index, pop card index. Now look how pretty that is. That's pretty, and it's syntactically valid. Nice and short, and the logic should be valid. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and run the server script, and let's look for our next bug. Okay, yeah, well this is not going to regression line 81, so we're gonna go all the way up there, and we'll just deal with that since we know this is bugged. Seems that the function being called over and over is causing bugs. Something needs to be changed here so the function isn't called over and over. So that's true. What's happening here at the very beginning of the game is, while true, this loop is running over and over again, and until the P1 entered name bool has been changed to false, it reruns this function. And off the top of my head, I'm going to go and say this is probably the wrong place for this while loop. Yeah. Because we don't want the while. And I see what I was trying to do here. I'm trying to make it so that both players, like, I could probably leave this while loop here and modify this somehow. Because what the goal with that while loop is to allow both of the players to change their names at the same time, simultaneously, and as soon as they finish, both finish, it moves to the next section, instead of doing one player's name with his own while loop and then doing the next player's name with its own while loop. I figured I could do one while loop and let them both change their name at the same time. Now, the issue with that is mainly the logic in this function is it's resetting it. So it's running this again. Which is just reassigning his progression text over and over. It's re-enabling his text input active over and over. It's transferring this data over and over right here. And then it's assigning his enter name num over and over again here. If game change is false. And where does the enter name num get set to 0? Ensures it is either the first time this has been run or one of the players had a value error which reset their name. But apparently I don't have that error in place because it's not implemented. Okay, yeah, so there's a bug with this. I mean, obviously there's a bug with this. This is incomplete. It's saying that there's supposed to be a value error associated with this. And my search has completed, and it has not found any match for it. So do we not use the value error thing anymore? I remember having that implemented, and apparently we removed that. So I see an improvement I can make right here off the bat is I'm pretty sure I can, first of all, we don't have a value error. First time running or tried entering name, um, a blank name. So that's actually how it works. Now we don't throw a value error. Or one of the players. Tried entering a blank name, which reset their enter name num back to 0. So this section right here, what is your name, and then true, and then text input active equals true. This is the same exact section as right here in this else. It's progression text, what is your name, text input active true, and then data transfer function. Player object .id, game object equals game object, caltube, game, text input active, and then true. So this is all exactly the same, and we don't need to repeat it. What we can do is just use the logic that's already in place, which is would be calling this function again. So although that is recursive, it's not like infinitely recursive. It's just like conditionally recursive, and having something be conditionally recursive is fine. I think I was like, recursion bad, stay away. But in reality, it's okay to have that. So what we can do here is replace this right here with player enter name, right? Because let's start from the beginning here. So we run the function. It's going to start off at 0. What is your name? Text input active true. Transfers the data. Change the enter name num to 1. Okay. Then if text input active is false, which means we hit enter. Well, actually, what's going to happen is it's since he's still typing his name, it's going to fly past this because this is going to be considered to be true still. So it's going to fly past this. It's not even going to run this. And then this function is going to get called again because of the outer while loop that we were dealing with. Now the outer loop is going to call this function again. It's going to then go check this line. It's not going to enter this line because his enter name num is equal to 1 at this point. And then only if he has finished typing out his name and hit enter will it then enter into this clause right here as true. And then it's going to length of the game object input text final. If the length of his name is greater than 0, it's going to assign him his name. It's going to transfer the name. It's going to change the enter name bool to true. Okay. It's going to change the progression text to Canasta. Okay, that's good. And enter continue text function. Okay. Then if game object ID is equal to 1, other player object equals to 2. Okay. If other player enter name bool is equal to false. Okay. Game object progression text waiting other player to enter name. Okay. That's fine. Now, else, which means if they did not enter at least one character for their name. Progression text, sorry, but your name must be at least one character long. List if your input was blank, hit enter, try again. Game enter continue text function, game object. And then player enter name. Player object, game object. But first, we have to assign the player enter name num to be 0 again. So that next time when it's called, we have to do that first. Sets this to 0, so upon next function call from outer while loop proper progression text etc. will be assigned, so he can re-enter name. Okay, so yeah, sorry, between must be one character long. It looks like your input was blank. Hit enter, try again. Okay, player enter name num equals 0, not equal to, but equals 0. Okay. Sets this to 0, so upon next function call from outer while loop proper progression text set will be assigned, so we can re-enter name. Correct. Okay, then player enter name, passing in the player object and the game object. Okay, shouldn't be anything wrong with that. So then it's going to recursively call itself, and it's going to say, it's going to check if player object enter name num is equal to 0, which it will. It's going to assign what is your name to progression text, text input active equals true, transfer the data, and then set its player object name num back to 1. Okay, now since we fixed that little quibble, the next thing we have to address is the fact that we have this while loop Well, actually, hold on. Unless it's finding issue with the length of the... Okay. So I'm kind of confused here actually now because I'm looking at this and so let's run through this. We have the while true. It runs if P1 enter name bool is equal to false. Okay. Player enter name P1 game. That's fine. It's gonna enter this. It's gonna assign all this stuff. Good. It's gonna fly past this because it's not done yet. Okay. Fine. So this is the only code that's gonna run. Okay. Now this shouldn't run again until he's finished typing. And we are assigning it directly this attribute because I'm thinking, okay, well maybe the attribute is like not being considered to be changed, but since we're modifying it through this in this way, it should be fine. Like that should be correct. So that seems like it would work. And then if P2 name, so it would finish that function. He would start typing his name. Then same thing happens here. He starts typing his name. Okay. If P1 enter name bool is true, okay, it's not going to enter this until they're both done, which breaks out of the loop, right? So then the second time it runs, let's say he's done typing his name. It's going to check this. It's not going to run this because that's been changed. It shouldn't anyway, unless like I'm not understanding something here. And yeah, I was thinking, well, maybe we have to transfer it, but we don't because it's being checked on the server side. Again, it's not being checked on the client side. It doesn't need to be transferred to the client side. And then it's gonna, let's say he finished typing his name, text input act is gonna be false, and we verified apparently the correct logic. I'm assuming I actually verified correctly. The finished typing name, hit enter. Okay. So as long as their name had a length greater than 0, it sets their name, transfers it, it changes the entered name bool to true, which is what we check for right here. Okay. And then prepare the Canasta. Okay. Oh, okay, wait, I think I see. Ah. Well, no. Okay, wait, no. That's not... Yeah, because once player object entered name bool is set to true, it's when it... Okay, so let's just keep going here. First while loop iterated, they start typing their name. Second while loop, P1 finished his name. Now since enter name bool is set to true, and we know that these game object reference works correctly because it does change to prepare to play Canasta or whatever. So then after that, since enter name bool is true, this part's done. Let's say let's say player 2 is not done yet. It's gonna enter into this one for player 2. Let's say he's done now, or let's say he's not done. So it's gonna run through here. It's not gonna enter that because he's typing his name. Enter name num equals 1. Text input active is gonna be equal to true, so it's not even gonna enter that section. So that's done for this iteration. Well, that clause anyway. Then it's going to say if P1 enter name bool is true, that's not going to be true because P1 enter name bool is true, but P2 is not. And they both have to be true to break out. So it's going to run the while loop again. And this time, it's going to say if enter name bool is false. It's not going to enter into that because enter name bool is true. Then it's going to check. Now let's say P2 is done at this point. So now it's going to enter into this clause because enter name bool is false for him. It's going to enter into player, enter name. So it's going to skip this. Text input active is going to be true. Okay. Then, as long as his name has a length greater than 0, signs the name, transfers it, change enter name bool equal to true. And then it's going to say if enter name bool is equal to true and P2 enter name bool equals true, it's going to break out. So I don't see the issue here. This seems valid. But unless I'm incorrect, I'm almost certain. God, I hope I haven't just been wasting my breath on a thing that's not a bug. I'm pretty positive it was iterating through this and it seemed to be reassigning, like, it seemed to have some weird reassignment going on here that was associated with like a loop, and it was resetting. So maybe it was something to do with this change I just made with how it was previously. How it was previously was, let's see. Let's figure this out. So before we would just, in the case of else, if they did not enter at least one character, for their name. Okay, and then it would just reset it to that, and then it would set that to true, and then data transfer function. Okay, and then when it would run again, text input active would be set to true. Yeah, so that shouldn't have been the issue. It was just a little smarter to do it the way we changed it to, but that shouldn't have been an issue. Now, the one thing I do see that I just noticed, technically, text input active could be set to false, which means we had hit enter, but maybe in like the split second before the associated string of logic changed input text final, but well, that depends on what input text final is set to initially for that to even, but like, okay, so technically both of them need to be true. Like if game object text input active is equal to false, meaning they hit enter and they're done, and the game object input text final is greater than 0, in that case, that's when we would need to move forward. Checking them one after the other. Technically, if text input text final was changed via text input after text input active in the little microsecond before it was changed, because it has to process the data, this could still be considered length of 0. But if we check them simultaneously, they would have to both have been processed before we continued. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, I think that is true. So I really didn't want to do this, but let me look at the associated logic with text input active. And I didn't want to do this, but whatever. So it does happen after. We change text input active to false, and then immediately after we set input text final. So in the microseconds between this line being changed and transmitted, because this has to get transmitted from client to server, and between this line being transmitted, changed and transmitted, and applied, it has to be changed, transmitted from the client to the server, and applied. There could be a significant delay between these two events. And it might be because if they're sent in two different packets, we have that 4-second wait, which really needs to be shortened. That might be why, is because if these two get sent on two different trains, if the first one catches the first train and this highlighted one catches the second train, then it's going to assume that this clause is true, but this clause is false. So it's basically going to assume that the name was empty, and then it's going to reset, but it should show this string, which I never saw this string, because that's supposed to make sure you hit enter first. And I didn't see that happening. But to be clear, that is a bug. That it does need to be both checked. We have to check if game object text input active is equal to false, and if length of game object input text final. So this has to be combined. So we're gonna say if they finish typing the name and hit enter, and if their name was at least one character. So this has to be if the game impact is equal to false, and length. It's not and if, right? It's just and. Like if and yeah, we don't have to write and if. So if game object text is input active equal to false and length of input text final is greater than 0. Okay. The way correct logic if they finish typing their name and hit enter and their name is okay. Now this needs to be oh, I see. I see why I had them different though, because we have that else. It's fine. We can just say, well, let me check this real quick to make sure, because input text final, I have to make sure that it's not reset to like some length 0 value, which it shouldn't be. It should remain what it was. So what is the length of an integer? If you try to check the length of an integer, I've never like checked this before. If we have I equals 0 and then we say print length of I, is that going to throw an error? Yeah, it's going to throw an error. Okay. Reminder that you cannot check the length of an integer. It throws type error object of type int has no len. And this is going to be called int len error rule. Okay. True. So let's keep looking through this search to ensure that it's not. Ah! Well, no, that's an initial assignment. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Alright. So we can then just say if game object takes mode active false, and so this is going to check to see if the game object text input active is equal to false and length of game object input text final is equal to 0. So then we have it structured like this: if player enter name num is equal to 0, and then if text input active is equal to false, which means they finish typing, hit enter, and the length of the input text final is greater than 0, it, oh, this needs to be unindented, or outdented. It's then gonna assign their name, transfer, da 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 da. Then it's gonna check if input active false and length of game object input text final if they did not enter at least one character for their name. If they hit enter but did not type one character for their name, and this is gonna say they enter but did not type at least one character for their name. Game object progression text. Sorry, but your name must be at least one character long. Looks as if your input was blank. Hit enter. Try again. Okay, and then sets this to 0. So if on next function call from outer while loop, proper progression text setter will be assigned so you can read. So they. I don't want to assume their pronouns. You know what I'm saying. Player enter name. Player object, game object. Okay, so yeah, this should be good now, and let's see text input active. Let's look at that one real quick. I wonder if that was the problem. That could have been it. Oh! No, no, no. I was about to say, oh, I got it. I see. I was about to say, wait, it's assuming that um is assuming that the text input active was true, but it needed to be transmitted. But I'm like, no, this is server side logic. It's not. It doesn't have to wait to be transmitted. I was thinking this line might be checking it. And it's like, wait, but it didn't get transmitted. It doesn't matter. It's immediately effective. It's line by line here relative to the progression file on the main thread. Okay. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident there's nothing wrong with that. So if we have problems, I want to say, unless I overlooked something, it's something else. It's not anything in this function or in this while loop. Like this should work. Let me make sure that there's not somewhere else that's calling this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's nowhere else that calls it. And once it goes to the draw 2, it doesn't set it again. It doesn't like call it again. It doesn't change your name again. It doesn't call the draw 1 again. What if the draw 1 is getting called again? Yeah, no. Unless it was happening somewhere else, but that's not the problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it and see. And I'm probably going to call it quits here because we should be coming up on our 2nd hour. Oh yeah, we're over 2.5. That's actually good. That means I was in the zone there. So we're gonna cd. Okay. We're gonna pi server. Okay. We're gonna cd. Then we're gonna pi client. All right. Now we're gonna cd and pi client. Okay. Let's run this. See, there it went. There it went. It set it to Canasta, ready to play Canasta, and then it changed it back. It set it to... Oh. So wait, game enter continue text function isn't working. The game enter continue text function is not working. Yeah, game enter continue text function is not working. So I think I actually fixed a bug. I think that was one of the bugs that I fixed just now. This line not being an and. I think that was a bug. And then apparently enter continue text function isn't working. Below line. In testing this, the prog text flashes and immediately changes to below prog text assignment. To the next below prog text assignment, which is on the other player. Okay, Therefore looks as if this below function isn't working or something. Don't ever want to just assume. It might not be that. So we fixed a few bugs. As you can see, it's a slow process. It takes time. This is the first roughly 100 lines, and in this file there's only 1,500 lines. So that would leave another 1,400 lines for us to debug, which is, you know, if we did one a day, that's 14 days of debugging. Hopefully it won't take that long. Hopefully we can get it done sooner than that. But I'm happy I took it slow. I made sure I did it right, and I fixed at least a couple bugs. And that's really what matters. And I didn't introduce any new bugs. So our bug count is lower. It's a finite number, and it will get down to 0 once we finish this. So I'm just going to keep grinding away at this, making sure I'm doing it right. We did 2.5 hours exactly, which is good in my book. I actually think I want to go play a video game, bro. I haven't played a video game in a while. I actually bought something for my son. It's an R36S. This thing. It's from China. You got it off of Alibaba or AliExpress. Can't remember which one. It's only like 30. It's funny, 36. It was like $36. 36. It was $36. Roughly. And it has like 2,000 games on it, maybe more. It's got all the way up to PlayStation games. You can play PlayStation games on this little thing. It's a little bitty. Check this thing out, dude. This little thing right here. 36 bucks, roughly. It's pretty high quality. It's like a Game Boy. It's got Super Nintendo games, regular NES games. It's got Nintendo 64, Sega, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, Sega Dreamcast, arcade games, Dig Dug, Galaga. It's got Ocarina of Time from Nintendo 64. It's got Majora's Mask. It's got fucking Mario 64. It's got Final Fantasy Tactics. It's got like so many awesome games on it. Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit, Donkey Kong, Super Mario, all these awesome games. And I got him set up with a favorites menu. So he's got like, I put like all the good games. It's like 50 probably on the favorites menu, so he can just like go to this little menu and he can play any game he wants of those 50 games. So he doesn't have to sift through the thousands of them. But I got this for my son for his birthday. His birthday's in 4 days, 5 days. He's turning 4. No, he's turning. I'm tripping. He's turning 6. My daughter just turned 4, like 5 days ago. It's crazy. Yeah. So I actually played a little bit of Final Fantasy Tactics on this thing. Check this out, dude. Look at this. See this? This thing's awesome, bro. PSP, PlayStation, Neo Geo, Game Gear, Dreamcast, Sega Mega Drive, which is Genesis, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, Nintendo, Super Famicom, Computer, PC Engine, MAME, Capcom, and then the favorites. And it works. Zombies Ate My Neighbors, X-Men, all these cool games. Shows you a little snapshot of them. So my son, his birthday, I might play a little bit of Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't know. Might play Overwatch or something. But yeah, I feel like playing a video game. It's been a while. He's gonna love this. Can't wait to give it to him. I love giving gifts to people. It's like my favorite thing. Honestly, buying gifts for people and giving them gifts is just like, it's like Santa Claus. I love it. Anyway, let's go ahead and finish this. So we continued. I can just copy this. Continued game testing and debugging, and we found and fixed about, I don't know, say 4 bugs. And now we're going to stage, commit, and push our changes. So this is going to be 5:49 to, we'll just say 5:50 because it only takes a minute, even though that's not exactly the correct time. So now we can copy this. We can go to our terminal. We're going to cd .. to go to the root project directory to make sure when we do git add, it adds everything. And we can ignore this LF warning. That's fine. And then git commit -m double quotes, paste in our, oops, I messed up there. Okay, I totally just whiffed that. Let's try this again. Git commit -m double quotes, paste in that devlog, double quotes to close. There we go. So there's our commit. It's 10 files changed, 49 insertions, 34 deletions. Now we're going to do git push to push to our remote repository and to the Canasta repo on the secondary branch. And it should successfully do this because we're connected to the internet. There it did. Successfully uploaded our data. Now we can go ahead and go to this folder, go to programming, projects, Canasta, oops, messed up there. We're supposed to copy this. We back out, we go to backup, we delete the old backup, hit OK for this message, paste in the new one, and then we go enter into it, go to text, devlog, go to the end, check the date. It is today's date, which means we correctly just did that process. Now we can rename our backup file to today's date to reflect the last time we updated it locally. And there we go, guys. It's done. Have a good weekend and Labor Day. And I might actually code on Labor Day. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, take it easy, guys.